Hi, it's Friday again. Welcome to Friday Sews, and you've reached me at my sewing practice. This is a YouTube channel where I talk about sewing, all things sewing, but most particularly things that you can wear. In other words, garment sewing. So around the YouTube world today in the sewing community, there has been a couple challenges going on, and they're actually over on Instagram, but we talk about them here on YouTube. And I am going to participate in the He-Man Sews. So I've made a few garments here. I've got all my hooks filled up, and I think we'll just jump right into it. Okay, so I started with sewing for boys. Now, I have got this pattern. And it's a great pattern because it has three things. And if you look at the boys on it, I think they look like they have cute little outfits on. And so I started by making the pants. And I didn't like them. Now, I will take ownership that I made them in kind of a rigid fabric. But they're really just don't fit well. They're really kind of an old-fashioned fit. As a matter of fact, the legs were so wide, I put a little elastic in them. They do have nice pockets and stuff, and I've also made them in pants. But I didn't even give them to the boys. I just keep them at home, and they wore them last weekend when they were playing in the sprinkler. I'm not proud of them. So I knew I needed to do something different. So I went and I discovered Burda patterns. Now, we all have heard of Burda, but I didn't realize that their kids' range were so adorable. They're a little bit more on trend, I would say. And so I've made up a couple pairs of boys, just one for the challenge, but I've made the pattern a couple times. Now these are gonna look a little funny because the boy I made them for is so long and thin, but that's just what 5-year-olds do. Sometimes they get real thin, so the legs go on forever, but they're super cute. They've got cute pockets. I also added pockets in the back. An option is to put a pocket on the side, and I didn't do that, but I did do the knee reinforcement because it's not only practical, but it looks cute. And then I put a cuff on the bottom, and the collar does, or the pattern does call for that. And then as you can see, I put a little lace, and I did put it all the way through with the elastic because again, little boys, their waists are small, but they get real long. Especially when the parents, like we're all tall in my family, so like the men are well over 6 foot. So they come by it honestly. And there's even a little faux fly. So I am super happy with this pattern, and I would definitely recommend it. And I'll be making more. And what's good about making those is I'm using my scraps. And I have plans to make more, I just didn't get to it. So let's go on to the next thing. So you had seen that I've made these camp shirts for the boys, and those will get entered, and I won't dwell on those. I've got a video that I put out 2 weeks ago talking about those shirts. And same thing with this. I'm going to enter this t-shirt, and it will get entered also in the t-shirt for summer contest. But again, I've talked about it, so we'll stop with that. So next, well, my son came home from vacation and said, Mom, I need a rash guard. And it wasn't planned. And, you know, they're only going to be swimming for another month. So I thought I'd rather do it sooner than later. And plus, with the challenge going on, why not? So I right away ordered some fabric from Surge Fabric. I'm sorry, it was from Fabric Fairy. I always confuse those two. Anyway, it was from Fabric Fairy. And, oh boy, it's really good fabric. And then, before I show it to you, well, I'll show it to you, then I'll go back. Here we go. Okay, so here's the garment. I have not, when I'm filming this, I have not taken photos yet because my son, I haven't been able to reach him yet because I just finished it. But the fabric is really great. It has UPF, I'm sorry. The fabric's really good. It has UPF factor in it, and it does have stretch. Now, I deliberately did not make the neck too tight, and let me tell you why. Okay, so I'm going to do it by demonstrating. So these rubber bands both stretch about the same amount, but one's thin and one's fat. This one, when I go to stretch it, it's really kind of easy. And this one, I go to stretch it, it's kind of hard. So I think that, like, if I was to have this on my wrist all day, I think it would bother me, whereas this one maybe wouldn't. I mean, just assume that. And that's how I feel about the neck on this top. I feel like it would be the fat rubber band. If I was making this out of cotton, I would be the thin rubber band, and I would make sure it really snugged his neck. But I think this is better. And while you're looking at my neck, look, I'm like all over this new label situation where I'm using the heat sensitive vinyl. I've already gone through a black roll, and I have just gotten a pink roll. And the other places I put it on this top was in the corner, a little bit of a logo situation. And then, just so we know that it's really good fabric, I also put on the inside that it's UPF 50. So yeah, that's the inside, looking good. Now, let's talk about the pattern. So I knew in my mind right away what I wanted to do. I wanted to have one with side panels for that extra fitting. And my son and I discussed it. It's like, do we want this to have a lot of negative ease? Like, are you really going to be in the water? Or are you going to be more like watching the kids at the poolside and just need something when you get in occasionally? And we decided it was the latter of the two. So we wanted it to mostly skim, not snug, but, you know, at the same time, not like oversized. So that's the fit we achieved. Now, I did that by, I'm going to tell you a dirty little secret. This is so funny. I had this pattern because I thought about making rash guards last year. And it's a jolly pattern called the Valerie. It's a woman's pattern. Now, you're thinking, well, if you have a small son. I don't have a small son. I have a 30-something-year-old son who works out, and he's 6'3", so he's not small. So what I did is I took, well, you're not going to see anything when I show you this, but this is the envelope. I have a raglan pattern that it initiated from rubbing it off one of my husband's raglans that just fit perfectly. And then as I make it for other men, I just kind of tweak it. So I have a raglan top, and I use that for the shoulder area. And then I use the side panels and the waist and all that. And of course I had to lengthen it like 4 inches because, like I said, my son's 6'3". But, you know, obviously I couldn't do that on my fashion fabric right off. I was way outside. I mean, I was running rogue. And so I had this French terry, which isn't anything like UPF fabric, but it had like the same amount of stretch. And this is the same, it was scraps from that game day tee I made my husband about a month ago. And so I made this top for him. And again, I'll get photos and put them in, but it ends up being a really nice top. But when I made it, I thought, now you're just making a muslin, don't worry about it, because I thought, who wants a snug fitting, you know, top like this? And then I thought about it, I'm like, well, he camps, and you know, I mean, sometimes like maybe it would be good under something on a cold day. So I went ahead and finished it, and I thought I would do this neck for fun. And again, I put a label in there. And, you know, I did the edges real nice. And that's the hem. And you know what? I think it's a really nice top. So bonus. So yeah, one more close up on my, it has the nice side panels, and I decided to go ahead and sew them down with my cover stitch for that kind of, you know, activewear look. That dot is just one of my marks. I haven't washed it yet. Yeah, so, I mean, I think it's really good. And I wasn't sure how much fabric. I wasn't sure how much fabric to order, so I ordered 3 yards. So next week I'm going to make his wife one out of the same pattern. This time I won't have to alter the shoulders. So that's one of my plans going forward. Okay, so I've got 2 more makes for He Made June. Well, again, revisiting this camp shirt, I wanted to try a different one. And so I got the Allstate, and this is by Merchant & Mills. And I got the PDF version. Merchant & Mills makes really good patterns. Their PDFs are just so-so. Like when you tape them together, they're a little bit awkward. I think it's because they probably don't use the same size paper as us, so sometimes things don't line up perfectly, but definitely good enough. And I think what I'll do going forward with them is just get them printed at the copy shop, but it's fine. And I really like that pattern, and I'm going to make it again. So let me show you the line drawing again. So what you see here is, first of all, it has a yoke on the back, and second of all, it has all this top stitching detail. And let me show it to you in real life. This fabric is really nice. And I got it at that fabric store that went out of business. It's called Piccadilly, and it's made by a company, I believe, called Northrop. If I'm wrong, I'll let you know, but I'm definitely going to link it for you because you can get it at other shops. It retails for $14 a yard, and I got it for $6.50 a yard because of the shop going out of business. So I made both of these for about $38, and I told you a long time ago I was going to tell you how much my makes cost, and I tend to forget, so I'm going to go back and do that. But anyway, these tops will end up being about $18 each because I had buttons, and I don't count interfacing. I will actually, now that I said that, I will have to include the cost of the Allstate pattern in the cost because that's my deal. It's the first time I include the pattern cost. And I know it was 10.5 pounds. I don't know what that translates to American dollars. But anyway, here it is again. And it just has such nice features. I sewed down the front facing. And I decided to do this kind of roll-up feature on the cuff. And these vents. To me, these vents, you know me, I like a good vent, are kind of the star of the show. And let me show you why. The Kwik sew, which is 3484 Kwik sew, and then I'm going to compare that to the Allstate made by Merchant & Mills. So the similarities are, on a camp shirt, you interface the top, the upper collar. The under collar, you don't interface. And let me explain why, because this is now, I've got it memorized because I understand why. The top one, the upper collar, is slightly larger than the under collar because that under collar is going to cause the edges to roll under so that you're not seeing your under collar, okay? Well, think about it. If your under collar is smaller than your upper collar and you're sewing them together, you've got to allow that under collar to stretch a little and then contract. So you can't put interfacing on it because it would stabilize it. So that makes sense to me now. Both of them have not, you want to sew that collar on the straight edges. And then the curvy edges will have notches. The notches usually meet right at the shoulders. And you sew all through all the layers up to the shoulders. Then you actually clip into the seam allowance. And that upper collar, you're not going to sew now. And then later you tack it down. But you can sew all the layers up to here because that front facing is going to cover the raw edge. And that's the basics of a camp shirt. And both shirts that I reviewed had that. And both of them also had a front facing that was a separate piece. On the little boy shirt, you just fold them under. And also the front facing is always interfaced. Now, obviously you have to listen to your fabric when you're talking about interfacing, but a general rule is you always want to have an interfacing that is lighter weight than your fashion fabric. And I really respect my interfacing. I let it cool and cure really well before I manipulate it, okay? The differences are that the vents are different in both of the patterns, and the seam allowances go from 1/4 inch on the Kwik Sew to 5/8 on the Allstate. Now, what I like about the bigger seam allowance is that it's better for side seams, in my opinion, that they look nicer on the inside. They both have 5 buttons, but on the Allstate, they're sewn down vertically, and on the Kwik Sew, they're horizontal. And I don't think it matters, and so I'm always doing the horizontal because to me, it kind of speaks to a casual shirt. The back yoke exists on the camp shirt, but it does not on the Kwik Sew. So and the camp shirt has a rouleau loop included, and the Kwik Sew does not. So I had made this Kwik Sew for my husband, and since it was fitted to him pretty well, I went ahead and made it again. But what I did is I made the modifications to be like the Allstate. So let's go over those. Now I ran out of the Piccadilly fabric in the check, so I had to use the lime gingham, but they are from the same series of fabric. And if you do like this fabric, again, it comes in quite a few different coordinating sets, and it also comes in a plum and pink colorway, okay? But anyway, I decided to do the color blocking like this, and I added the rouleau loop, which was not on this pattern. And then I also added a yoke and included a little bit of a vent. And then I did a little bit of a rounded back adjustment when I inserted the yoke. Again, I did do vertical buttonholes. I put a spare button in both of them, both shirts. And then this is that nice vent technique from the inside. And I went ahead and hand sewed this really more because I was watching video. So I hand sewed the front and then I did machine sew the back. But the reason, part of the reason I hand sewed the front was because what happens is all these pieces kind of relate to each other. So you've got your front facing, and again, I sewed it down. And then you come down here, and this angle, of course, is important. This is the bottom. I've got it upside down. But then you have a total of 6 right angles on a camp shirt. And so they all kind of relate to each other. So, yeah, these are the buttons I used for it. I went ahead and put some wash away interfacing when I sewed these on my machine. And again, I need to wash it. But I will I'll pop in some pictures because I do have them of my husband because I can photograph him anytime I live with. But the others I don't live with, so I'll have to go over. Hopefully I'm going to go after the video and do that. Okay, so next segment of Friday Sews is what I have been up to. What have I been up to? After I talked to you last time, I went to Stitch and I worked with my student, and she did really good, and we finished a bag. And she did really good, and I wanted to take a picture, but she didn't want me to, so obviously I didn't. And she wants to sell the bag. She doesn't want to keep it. So, and she, of course, enjoyed the little gifts I gave her, and that's in the last Friday Sews if you're interested in that. And then I know we were busy on Saturday, and I cannot remember what we did. But Sunday, all the kids came over, including our daughter, and it was so fun. Like I told you before, my daughter's sewing again. And so she and I sewed, and the kids were in crazy and played in the sprinkler, and I don't know. We just did all kinds of stuff. But Brittany, that's my daughter, she's coming over again Friday because it's her birthday. And we're going to basically repeat the day only without the distraction of children. So we're going to go on scooter rides and like go out to lunch, and we're going to sew. And I'm sure we'll have gift giving and desserts and, you know, maybe a little wine, who knows. But I'm really looking forward to spending the day with her. Her husband's been working from home, so she doesn't have to get us home as quick anymore for the dogs. So that frees her up a little, so that's nice. And then going forward next week, I'm looking at my notes. On Sunday, I am going to do a post of a pretty blouse I just made. It's the Ballad blouse, so that's what's going to be on Sunday. And why I'm here, let's talk a little bit of housekeeping about the channel. Well, first of all, of course, thank Jen for putting this group together, and thank you, Adam and Lisa, for putting on the challenge. It was just really well timed for me, and I look forward to entering. I put out a video last Sunday. I told you I was going to start doing videos Friday and Sundays. It wasn't quite as well received as my other videos. Now, I'm a new channel, so every time I put out a video, it does well, like, you know, comparatively. And thank you so much for subscribing. My subscriptions are going up, and I think I'm going to try to get to 1,000, because if I get to 1,000, I think I might buy a new camera. So if you could help me do that, I'd really appreciate it. And some of you are starting to chat with me, and I'm just totally enjoying the chatting. So thank you for that. So that's the part of the channel going forward. Now, in the fall for me is sort of like a new year. So in the fall, I want to do something different. Now, not different on the channel, but I want to add something to my sewing practice. And what I'm thinking of is like a group. Like, for example, I could do the Cashmerette Club, and then I could report on that. Or I could do seam work, or I could do the sewing workshop, or I could simply start buying magazines. I buy no magazines. Or I could maybe do a certain pattern company for an entire month, and do that like 3 times till the end of the year. So if any of that interests you, or any ideas, like if in your mind you would say, or you're saying, I would do such and such if only I had the time and money. Whatever that is, let me know, because I'm ready to do something like that. So that is channel stuff, I think. I think that's everything. Now, what I'm sewing next week is, golly, I'm going to get back into sewing for myself. All this boy sewing's push me over the edge. So I'm going to do a set, in other words, a matching top and bottom for myself. I'm going to make my daughter-in-law that rash guard. I've got a friend that I need to make a little jacket for. A Harper cardigan is what it is. And so that's the beginning. And I've got another idea, but of course I don't know if I'll get to it. But those are my ideas for next week. So that should wrap it up. So anyway, I'm going to get off here and hopefully go take some good pictures that you've already seen. And you have a wonderful weekend. I'll see you soon.